Hi everyone, Stacy Whiter here on behalf of Campus Mortgage with part 2 of a 3-part video series on community seconds mortgages for Fannie Mae loans. Just a quick reminder before we get started. This video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice or used in place of Fannie Mae guidelines. Also, this video was issued on July 24th, 2018, and the information contained in this video is subject to change without notice. So as we discussed in part 1, the community seconds are second mortgages that are funded by a non-interested party to the transaction and can be used to pay the down payment, closing costs, prepaids, renovations, or a permanent interest rate buy down for the borrower. I also mentioned that there was an important checklist that the lender is responsible for ensuring whatever program or investor for that program that they use, it's the lender's responsibility to make sure that that program meets Fannie Mae requirements. There's an important checklist that we're going to take a look at here to make sure that it meets the requirements. So let's take a look at this checklist in a little bit more detail. All right, so let's start at the top here. So it says if the answer to each of the following questions is no and the subordinate mortgage otherwise meets the community seconds requirement in the Fannie Mae selling guide, the related first mortgage may be delivered to Fannie Mae provided the first mortgage otherwise satisfies Fannie Mae's mortgage eligibility and criteria and underwriting guidelines. So what they're saying here is that they really want each of these questions to be answered no in order for it to meet Fannie Mae's requirements. So let's take a look at the questions. Let's start with question number 1 here. So does the combined loan to value ratio for the first and subordinate mortgage exceed 105%? So really the first and second combined should not exceed 105%. Next, are the funds for the subordinate mortgage provided by an entity other than a federal agency, municipality, state, county? That's the list that we went over earlier. So basically, whoever is providing funds needs to be in that list or fit a category within that list. Question number 3, will the subordinate mortgage documents constitute a lien that is a prior lien to the first mortgage? So again, the answer should be no, because Fannie Mae says to do a community second, that community second has to subordinate to the first lien. Number 4, is the subordinate mortgage funded in any way funded through the first mortgage, such as premium pricing or a lender credit? So the answer to this definitely needs to be no. So the lender can, again, fund can fund these community second only in the situation where the borrower's employer is guaranteeing it. Otherwise, they cannot. So they cannot do over par pricing or premium pricing or provide some sort of lender credit to cover it. So the answer to this needs to be no. Question number 5, will the proceeds from the subordinate mortgage be used for purposes other than the down payment, closing costs, prepaids, renovations, or permanent interest rate buy down? The answer for that has to be no. Also, and we haven't talked about this yet, we'll talk about this in part 3, but does the subordinate mortgage provide for a payment that is larger than the periodic payment required to amortize the subordinate loan and becomes due and payable before the date, which is the earlier of 15 years after the date of the subordinate lien or the maturity date of the first mortgage, like a balloon payment? And again, the answer to that has to be no. We're going to talk about repayment terms in the next video. Question number 7. If the interest is charged on the subordinate mortgage, is the rate higher than 2 percentage points above the interest rate of the first mortgage? That has to be a no. Question number 8. So this gets into the negative amortization. I'm not going to read all of this to you. Basically, the second mortgage cannot have negative amortization. Number 9, are there any covenants or restrictions recorded against the property? So the answer to that has to be no. So that's something that you'll want to make sure. Number 10, if the subordinate mortgage provides for the provider to share in any appreciation in the value of the property, is interest also charged on the subordinate mortgage? So that's a tricky one too. If you have a situation where maybe the bank or the employer or whoever is funding that second mortgage If they want to share in some of the appreciation of the home, that can get a little bit sticky. I think in most cases, it's not going to be something that the investor will do, but certainly check that out. All right, and then the final question is if the subordinate mortgage provides for the provider to share in any appreciation. So again, this is just a continuation of that question. So best bet is for whoever is providing or funding the community second should not want to have any type of interest as far as appreciation or gaining appreciation on the property. So very simple checklist. Again, basically they want all of these questions to be no for the community second provider to meet Fannie Mae requirements. All right, that concludes part 2 of this 3-part video series. Thanks so much for watching. For more tips and videos, please visit campusmortgage.org to look for their weekly mortgage video tips designed for all mortgage professionals, including underwriters, loan officers, processors, closers, and post-closers. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.